live?
On this one we are. It's 11.
Okay. Did you say you're going to the washroom? Here, bring that one up. We'll make a separate ledge for it, like here. Or awesome. Do you want to make it higher? Is that okay? Will you be able to be here?
All right.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Sorry, we're trying to set up. We have 2 cameras, and we're trying to orchestrate this. All right.
How's it going?
Hey.
Hey. Hello.
Let's just do that. Yay. All right. So this morning, we're going to be just having a bit of a discussion. Oh, I need to start this one. Sorry. All right. So this morning, we're having a bit of a discussion about the dimensions of shame and sexual shame. And the reason we decided to do this one, I think, is because when you think of sexual, or when I think of sexual shame, I should make that. When I think of sexual shame, or when I hear people talking about it, they speak about it in the traditional way, which I would say is more like the religious dogma, or looking at sexual shame as something like sex is a sin, or sex before marriage is a sin, or you shouldn't be having this type of sexual relationship, or you can't be too loose or too overtly sexual, especially for people born female. So there's that really traditional sort of sex is dirty, you must be conservative, and you have to follow these rules, and sex is for married people, and sex is for having babies, etc. And so anything outside of that, there's like lots of shame that can come up for people around if they are enjoying sex, or they're having sex with more than one partner, or they've had more than one partner, or they're having sex outside of marriage, or even outside of a committed relationship, or if they're not monogamous, or if they're not heterosexual. And so there's all of this shame. Absolutely there is that traditional sexual shame. And what Sarah and I have been discussing lately is like there's also this like polar opposite, where based on our modern like cultural landscape, there's also a lot of expectations now around how you should be showing up or performing sexually, and that it is okay, and that you should be embracing sex, and you should be openly sexual, or you should be doing this, that, and the other around sex now. And those are all old school values. And so then we've swung to the other end of the direction, and it becomes, if you're not doing this now, then that is also shameful. So, I mean, just speaking from like my own experience, like I grew up in this relatively conservative household, especially when it came to sex. And like masturbating was like very edgy, like that was like, oh my gosh. And like wearing like V-necks and hoop earrings in high school, like I was like, that was the sluttiest thing ever. And so that was like the household that I grew up in. And so there was more of the traditional sexual shame. My grandpa was actually a bishop, and my mom was raised as like the preacher's daughter. And so there was definitely those rules and guidelines about how you needed to show up. Then as a young adult, like in my early 20s, I started really exploring, like I found that so limiting that I was like, I want to explore and open up to sex. And I was like a huge like Sex in the City is the best thing ever, and I want to be like Samantha Jones, and also like started studying like Tantra and Taoism. And I got so excited, and I thought this would be such a liberating experience for me. And I was shocked when what actually happened was all of a sudden I had all of this shame now around not being able to be Samantha Jones, or not being able to have cervical orgasms, or energy orgasms, or eyeball orgasms, or full body orgasms, And so all of a sudden then I wasn't good enough for like from a religious standpoint, but then I also was certainly not good enough from this other new ideology and standpoint that I was learning about. And it was so confusing. It was like, one specific example, I remember always really being like, I need to be good at blowjobs, because I thought I was expected to give blowjobs. I thought that was what men wanted more than anything. And so I was like, I need to be good at these. And so I read about them and I watched videos and I practiced and I was like, I need to be good at blowjobs and I need to be confident and I need to enjoy them because that's how you get good at them. And so then, I got to a place where I was comfortable with my blowy skills. So I was like, this is great. And then I read about these tantra teachers who are like, you can have throat orgasms when you're giving oral pleasure to, a man, and you should be like opening up and it should be so pleasurable and you should be wet and you should be orgasming and you should be this, that, and the other. And I was like, what? I was like, I thought I was good. And now I'm all of a sudden think that I'm not doing it right again, or I'm not doing it good enough, or I'm not up to par because I'm not having throat orgasms. And don't get me wrong, that sounds great. And if I could do that, I've never had that. And if you have, fantastic. I don't want to take away from that experience. If you're having throat orgasms and heart orgasms and eyeball orgasms and energy orgasms, those are beautiful things. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be, striving or wanting those things in our life. And I also think that there's can be just as much shame around that end of the spectrum as there is around the like don't have sex versus have sex this way, or this is what sex can be, and then if it's not that, then it's not good enough. And so it's just it's confusing. I remember being, and I still get like so confused, and especially throughout my 20s I was just so confused about trying to be this certain sexual icon that I thought I was supposed to be, and then also having all of like my household and like family values also on me, and I was like trying to be these two different things, and I felt like, or I thought I was failing at both of them. I'm like, I'm not conservative and perfect and virginal, and I'm not Samantha Jones or like a goddess. I'm not a sex goddess, which I mean, thank God I'm not Samantha Jones, and kudos to Samantha Jones. But it's just like, it was so confusing, and it was just, I felt, I was like, I can't win. I cannot win no matter what I do. And it's really defeating, I find. But anyways, that's my go. What are you thinking?
I think that, sorry, there's a lot there. Let me think about that for a second. Okay, so I think that there's a lot of, especially in society today, I think that there's a lot of sexual shaming. So I have heard so many times from like, especially I have a lot of male friends. So from my male friends who are interested in females, I would never date a stripper. I wouldn't date anyone who's like that, or like slut shaming people, or, oh, that girl's such a slut, she slept with, this many people. I would never date a girl like that. However, if they were to take home, like a perceived like good girl who doesn't put her sexuality out there, I feel like there's still this pressure for this good girl to show up like the sexually confident person that they were already shaming. So I don't know if that makes sense. So I wouldn't sleep with, this girl because she's a slut or a stripper, or I wouldn't want to get involved with someone like that. But yet you take this so-and-so good girl home and you expect her to perform in these ways, or put all of this pressure on this person, or this girl might feel this pressure to have to satisfy their partner in this way. And I feel like nowadays with like online dating, sex has become so accessible to so many people. Like, I've personally never done online dating, or like I've never used Tinder or anything like that. I've never tried it, but I have seen it and I've experienced it where people can literally go onto an app, and then by the time they get home, they have someone who they can have sex with. Like, sex has become so accessible, but yet, oh, I wouldn't date, this girl off Tinder, she's a slut, is like another thing that I've heard a lot as well. So why is it that we're slut shaming, or we're shaming these people who are open about their sexuality, whether they don't necessarily have to be some random girl off Tinder or a stripper, but if a girl likes to put it out there and it's like, I like to have sex, I enjoy sex, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're a slut, but yeah, you know what, like you enjoy to have sex and you put it out there, why is it that you get shamed and you're called a slut because you're open about your sexuality? A lot of people enjoy sex. The majority of us do. So how come mentioning it or bringing it up in conversation, that would make you, that's just like what am I trying to say? It's just like an open invitation to like almost have yourself be like slut shamed, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing when you're saying that also is like, it's it's like you don't want somebody, or people aren't picking people who are overtly sexual or overtly like putting it out there like you're saying, but then also behind closed doors there is an expectation around them performing or enjoying sex a certain amount. So it's almost like the two moral, like it's like those two ends of the spectrum have clashed, where it's like everyone is expected to be good at sex or perform sex or like sex, but kind of secretly, because if you put it out there too much, then that's slutty and not really desirable in a partner. But then if you have a partner, you expect that partner to be pretty sexual, because it's like, yeah, so it's like you don't want the slut, but like prude isn't okay. And it's like, why are those? And it's like they're expecting a like perfect marriage of the two of those, where I said to Sarah, I don't know if any of you remember the song "Yeah" by Usher. Hopefully, lots of people do, because it was super popular. Do you remember it? Do you know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get it started.
I don't know. It's like, we'll play it after. But there's a line in it where he says, "I want a lady in the street, but a freak in the bed." And I was like, oh, okay. I remember hearing that. I was in like grade 12. And I was like, okay, that's what people want. But it's like, and I think that's kind of what you're saying.
It is what I'm saying, because it's at the same time, it's like there's still, even if you are this perceived good girl and you haven't been labeled as this like sexually confident or like slutty. I don't even really know what the word slut means, but this really like slutty girl that, society has deemed you as. But then like you there's still all of this pressure. At least I feel, I can only speak from my own personal experience and from what I've heard from other people, but there is still so much pressure to perform and satisfy in the bedroom. And if you are not in a committed relationship, and maybe you are having sex with different people and different people like different things, and you're constantly having these sexual encounters where you're always having to adapt what other people like, and it's hard because you're always trying to please the other person, or you can always be trying to please the other person, sorry. But instead, it's not, but it doesn't feel okay to be like, hey, this is me, this is my sexuality, this is what I like, this is what I like to do, because there's that like fear of judgment, or that's potentially where like the labels could come in, where it's like, oh wow, like you're a slut, you like that, you're into that. But then I feel like there's this expectation to be like a pleaser in the bedroom behind closed doors, and it's like that's where a lot of shame I feel can come in, because I feel like Brene Brown talks about this all the time, but shame grows around secrets. So if you can't talk about your sexuality and you're keeping it a secret, and it's something that you can never talk about, then you're going to feel shameful about some of these things that maybe you like in bed, and you feel like you can't talk to them and you can't be open about it. But then if you are open about it and you're like, I love sex and I love to do these things, it's like, hey, you're a slut. Like, don't talk about those things. How can you be so bold? It's a very interesting balance. So I feel like there's a really fine line between like sexual shaming and then like the pressure that a lot of, and it's not just women, but like I know men deal with this too.
We're women, we're speaking from our perspective.
Yes.
So.
But there this pressure to show up and to perform and to be this sex goddess, and then
yeah, and so it can be really confusing. And I guess where I go with that, like just from like the counseling perspective, it's like I believe that it wasn't really until I was like in my late 20s, early 30s that I started to actually be like, what do I want? What am I comfortable with? What do I actually like? What actually feels good? And like have that chance to be like, as opposed to thinking this is what I need to be doing, or this is how I should be experiencing orgasm. Like, it's like, what is actually working for me right now? And that's cool. Like, I hope I still want to have an energy orgasm one day. I'm not going to lie. And like, if I can have a throat orgasm, like bring it on. But I used to like hate on myself if I couldn't do it, as opposed to just being like, okay, well, this is what I am experiencing. This is what I can experience. This is what's pleasurable in my body. This is actually what I want. And this is okay. This is where I'm at right now. Like, regardless of like, it's good to have goals. Like I'm saying, like, sure, if you have sex goals, that's cool. Have a sexy bucket list. And if you're not doing everything on that sexy bucket list, or if, there's things on there that are just on there because you think that they should be, it's more about just saying like, sure, keep like strive for goals, make sure they're goals that are like from like a really authentic place. And then also like acknowledge where you're at, acknowledge what you have, own the prudy. I have prudy pieces of me, and I have like Samantha Jones pieces of me. And like, it's okay to be both, and it's okay to have your own combination, and own both of those, as opposed to, because you'll go nuts. You'll go absolutely nuts if you're just constantly trying to fit an archetype, because there's so many divided archetypes now, and it's always about like that. It's like for somebody else at that point. Like really, it's about, I think here it's about self-reflection and being like, what actually works for me? What do I actually want? What actually feels good? And like, if all you're having is clitoral orgasms, celebrate that. That's fantastic. If you're not having any orgasms, that's okay too. Celebrate the pleasure that you can feel in your body, and still, have work towards a type of orgasm that you want. If you can't have cervical orgasms, if you can't have G-spot orgasms, like that's okay. You don't have to be like ashamed of that. It's like, celebrate what you do have, celebrate the pleasure you can experience, and keep like hoping and expanding and practicing for more. But
I just want to say something before we run out of time.
This one.
Yeah, so we're gonna just finish our IGTV, and then we're gonna answer our YouTube questions. But I think also just embracing your sexuality, and people may judge you and call you names, and they might slut shame you. They will. Everyone will always have something to say, but as long as you're yourself and you own it and you rock it, then do your thing, and we love you.
Okay, cool. Let's go through some of there was people commenting on YouTube, so we're going to go into that.
All right. So we're about to finish up here. So if you have any last minute questions, drop them down on YouTube. I'm going to go through them right now. Oh, there's a child in the background crying. Yay. Celibacy, Christianity.
Sex is a wonderful thing. I will agree with that. Sex is a wonderful thing, and when it is with somebody you love, I agree with that too. Sex can be a wonderful thing on its own, and it can, like, when I mean on its own, I mean not with somebody you love, and there's something different about the quality of being with somebody you love. Absolutely.
Does sex shaming help fuel the sexual script that you two talked about before?
Yes, I'd say like shame is like the backbone of like the sexual script. It's like, that's what keeps you in line. It's like, there's this script. It's like, this is what you're supposed to be as a person who's born female, or this is what you're supposed to be as a person who is born male. And if you don't follow this script, then we shame you. Then you've done wrong. Then you're not okay. So like, whether that script is based on traditional religious dogma, or whether that script is based on Samantha Jones and Sex and the City and what you're supposed to be as like the modern single woman, whatever that script is, it's written, and then the police of that script is shame. Shame is the thing that keeps you or tries to keep you in line, because as soon as you come away from that, then like you're just flooded with that shame. And I would say, even if you're following one script to a T, the other script that you're choosing not to follow, you'll get shame from that one. So you'll get shame, like whether, even if you're following this script's rules, there'll still be shame from the other scripts. But absolutely, like they're interconnected. I think they're one and the same. The script and the shame is like the gatekeeper of the script, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And if you did have any questions you weren't comfortable sharing on YouTube, you can email us at eatsquatcome@gmail.com. We do our best to answer your questions as best as we can. And at the same time, if it's something that you really want to dive into as well, and you're interested in potentially, having coaching with
either of us,
Kendra, or myself, then we can explore that as well. But we do answer questions via email, depending on how in-depth and elaborate they can become.
And I just wanted to mention, for those of you, we always start a new live because we don't know, or we don't have the technology to go live right from, like, we post a preview or saying trailer of our next upcoming live, and then we don't have the program that we need to actually go live right from that. So we usually start a new one. But the preview that we had posted for today was, are you ready to become a vagina warrior? And then we had to switch the topic just last minute. So if anybody was wanting that one or was waiting for that one, it is coming. We're probably going to do it. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks, but then when I'm back, I think it's going to be October 16th is going to be our next live. And that one, we will be talking about vagina warriors and how to be a vagina warrior and what a vagina warrior is and why vagina warriors are awesome. And vagina warrior is still a script, so you don't have to be a vagina warrior, but we're just giving you an option.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a vagina personally for yourself, if there's someone in your life that does, maybe recommend watching this video, because I think it could be really helpful for a lot of people who were born with a vagina.
Totally. All right. Thank you so much. Email us questions if you have more. Again, eatsquatcom@gmail.com. And we should be launching our website in the next month. I don't want to make promises. I shouldn't have given you any time frame at all. Soon. We're soon. And there'll be lots more information and ways to like contact us and interact with us once we have our website up and running. All right?
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
And
we appreciate you and have a great day.
Very much.